Hello and welcome back to my garden. For those of you not in the know, because we have quite a few new subscribers, my name is Jason and I'm down here in Eastern North Carolina, growing zone 8B. I've been building this garden down here now for almost 5 years, or going on 5 years. And today I thought, since it's getting kind of hot out, we just do a quick walk around the garden and take a look at some of the things that are happening here in the garden, how it's waking up, what is flowering right now, and maybe what I hope will happen later this year, if any of that makes sense. Right here in front of us though, and some of you may have already seen this before, if you're a regular subscriber. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, click that bell icon to be notified when I do post a new video. This way you can follow along with my shenanigans as I build my garden here and as it grows. But right here in front of me is a lot of seedlings. Now, most, if not all, of these seedlings are a-okay for next week. And I mention that because even though today is supposed to be about 80, and it kind of feels that way right now, it's very humid also. But next week we're supposed to be getting down to daytime highs anywhere from 55 to 60, but nighttime lows possibly as low as 43. Though there right now doesn't appear to be any danger of a frost or a freeze, certain plants are temperamental to those colder temperatures, especially when they're as small as this Nicotiana. This is jasmine tobacco, Nicotiana, and it's looking lovely right now. But I think what it's going to happen next week is maybe I'm going to bring this back into the greenhouse. We'll have to see about that. I'll have to watch and monitor that weather. The snapdragons that I have out here, they'll be fine. I have some clary sage out here, they'll be fine. I have some black-eyed Susans, they'll be fine. A lot of the stuff on the bench will be a-okay with those cooler temperatures. But other plants, such as my dahlias in the greenhouse, they're gonna stay in the greenhouse. In fact, today they're actually probably cooking in the greenhouse due to the temperature, but it's only for a couple of days and then we get right back down to those cooler temperatures. Since we're here in the vegetable garden, let's take a quick look at some of what's going on around here. Quick peek inside my greenhouse. I've got dahlias, balsams, sea hollies, tomatoes, all sorts of stuff growing in there. And we'll look at more of that in the upcoming weeks. Right here in front of us, we have Deerfield purple garlic. This is Sicilian artichoke garlic and Inchylon red garlic. So 3 varieties of garlic growing in these beds. They look really good. These surrounding beds all have to be reworked and filled up for the spring, which I'm not going to be planting really anything out next week because it's going to be so cool. So for instance, my tomatoes, if I tried to plant them out, they'd be okay, but they're going to suffer. They're just not going to be happy in the cooler air and the cooler soil. So again, they'll stay in the greenhouse for at least another week, but in the meantime, I'll probably start filling up these beds and prepping them and getting them ready for planting, which will probably be the week after. This bed right here, I've got radish. This is German giant radish, and it looks like some of these are going to be ready to start pulling very shortly. Right here, I have more Deerfield purple garlic, and then over here I have Romanian red garlic. So 2 different varieties of garlic here, but that's not all the garlic I have. I have more over in the ground. In ground over here, I have some California garlic, California white garlic. And then over here, I think that's Romanian. This is Deerfield. And I think back here is something else. I didn't see it. I thought I saw a tag someplace. But I have a couple of different varieties of garlic in here. The bulb spot over there needs to be reworked for planting in the upcoming weeks. In the back over here, I have my comfrey growing. And I'll probably start harvesting some of those leaves to start making comfrey tea soon. And then along the fence line, I have a couple of different varieties of daylilies. If you're new to the channel, I live in an area that has herds of deer roaming through it at various times. And you may have noticed that my fence is only 4 foot high. The deer normally do not jump the fence, and that's for a variety of different reasons, which I'm not going to bore you with today. But the daylilies are safer in here behind a short fence than they would be out in the flower garden. In this messy area right here, where I have this black weed fabric, this is what I call my in-ground beds. And over the last few years, I've generally tried to grow things like corn, pumpkins, a few other things here in the in-ground beds that would normally take up too much space or wouldn't work over in the raised beds. This year, I'm going to do something completely different. This is all going to be flowers. I would say a cutting garden, but it's not really, I don't really cut flowers to take them into the house. So This will be a cutting garden, but I'm not really going to cut flowers from that, but I am going to grow zinnias, sunflowers, and a few other flowers here in this space to keep them away from the deer. Zinnias are supposed to be deer resistant. My deer love zinnias. I discovered that last year the hard way. So I'm going to be growing here in the flower garden in this space plants, flowers and plants that the deer love to eat, and hopefully keep them safer for me. So all this weed fabric will come up. The beds underneath will get a little bit of a rework, and I will bring you guys along for that. Some of these pots that you see along the edges, they will stay and or go. As I take up the weed fabric and prepare this space, I'll be talking more about that in detail. One of the things that I wanted to do as I built the garden out over the last 5 years or so is make the garden not just a production zone, but also attractive, something, not a nice place to work in, something fairly attractive. And in regards to that, I've added in this walkway, something nicer to walk on. When we get heavy downpours, the ground gets quite muddy and slippery. And so that this walkway was an attempt to stop that from happening. You may have noticed there's all this, these stones here. These came with the house. They were used in various walkways, which I've since removed. But I took these flagstones and I made them into this nice area here in front of the greenhouse. Eventually, I hope to have a walkway running this way towards the front gate. It's a dream of mine. But in the meantime, I have 4 citrus trees. These 2 right here are my lemon trees. Last year, I got a pretty good harvest off of them. Right here is my Easy Peel Clementine orange tree. Again, last year I got a very nice harvest off of that. I've had to do some pruning over the winter time, but it is flowering right now and leafing, so we'll see what the year brings us. And right here is my key lime tree. And this is the first year, I think this is the 3rd year it's alive, and this is the first year it's flowering. So maybe I'll actually get some key limes out of this tree this year. Let's take a walk over to the rose garden. Right here in front of you, in bloom right now, looking incredible and fantastic, is Discovery Dutch Iris. If you've never grown Dutch irises before, give them a try. They're really pretty, as you can see. They come in different colors. I'm going to show you another variety in the flower garden in a little bit. They have been naturalizing here, so they're forming bigger and bigger clumps. So at the end of their growing season this year, I think I'm going to have to dig some of them up to take up some of the bulbs and plant them elsewhere in the garden. But for right now, they do look incredible. This messy front area right here is the front portion of the rose garden, and the opposite unfinished, the completely unfinished side to what you guys just saw there. And my plan for this year is to start pulling up some of this weed fabric. Now, what I had done previously has been dumping grass clippings, twigs, all sorts of compostable material down in this space, covered it with the weed fabric, left it for the past, year and a half, to basically cook everything underneath, thus adding organic and hopefully nutrition to the poor soil without me having to add in tons of compost. So hopefully this project starts this year. This way I can start getting rid of this mess, I can start getting rid of the weed fabric and start making it look more like a garden. Right here is one of my 2 peach trees. This peach tree is Red Haven peach. I believe the other one is Georgia Belle. I've had these now for 3 or 4 years. They've produced lovely peaches that my wife loves to eat, but sadly you've missed the flowers. But if you follow me over on Instagram, I generally try to post up pictures of things like the peach tree flowering or other plants that may be flowering or doing something interesting throughout the garden. If you don't want to follow me on another social media platform, what you can do is go over to growinggreenfinger.com, and if you scroll the way to the bottom of the homepage, I have my Instagram photos reflected there. So you can go check that out every couple of days or so and catch up as to, again, some of the things that I'm not showing you here on YouTube, such as maybe the peach tree flowering. Also, as a side note, if you want to know where I am in the garden or how the garden is laid out, because I'm mentioning all these different spaces, you can go over to growinggreenfinger.com, the garden, and there I have a map of the garden. I have, I think, a couple of aerial photos, and then I have some drawings of different spaces that I'd like to do in the future as the garden grows. Welcome to my flower garden. As you can see, this space from a distance is really unimpressive. But what it is 60 feet wide by approximately 90 feet long, and I'm filling it with all sorts of good stuff. So let me bring you in closer to show you some of the things that are interesting and are happening right now in the flower garden. Right here in these two pots, I have Russian sage growing. And I thought I saw a tag the other day. These are Blue Jean Baby Russian sages. What I did last year was I made an incredibly, or I hope to be an incredibly free draining soil mixture filled with pea gravel and bark and vermiculite, and I mixed all of that in with a purchased potting soil mixture, and then I planted these two Russian sages, and they have done spectacularly. We got hit with a couple of tropical storms which dumped inches and inches of rain on us. These pots drained out very nicely. These Russian sages survived all of that. They survived our very, very cold winter that we had this year, which is fantastic. So hopefully this year they grow nice and big, and they'll be putting on an incredible show later this summer. This space right here, last year I had all of my named dahlias in here. So I had Winky Kernel, and I had Black Satin, and all the named varieties filling the space. I didn't take good care of my dahlias last year. I was busy doing other things, and I didn't give them the care that they really should have been given, the attention that they should have been given. So some of my plants did suffer, a few died, a few had other things happen to them. So at the end of the season, I dug them all up, took them into the greenhouse, divided them, and I even did a little division earlier this spring, winter, let's say winter, late winter, and then I set them into various pots and trays in the greenhouse to start coming to life, seeing what had. Because I have bad eyes, I can't necessarily see where all the buds are, so I don't know if all of my dahlia divisions have eyes, so I don't know what is going to work so far as a tuber is until they start producing leaves and stems. Some of them are, which is good news. Some of them aren't, which is bad news, but maybe they will. Sometimes dahlias take a while to wake up, and we're just in early April, so I'm hoping for that. But my goal for this space this year is to hopefully bring those dahlias back in, plant them out into this space. I'm going to arrange them a little differently than I have in years past, and I'll, of course, as always, bring you guys along for that if and when I start to put this back in. We're now on the opposite side of where those dahlia beds were. This is the oldest section of the flower garden, and I have all sorts of various plants coming to life in this area. Gladiolus, sea hollies, mums, chrysanthemums, agastache. Right here next to me is Alaska Shasta Daisy. You may have also noticed in several of the clips already that I have all these white flowers everywhere. This is a bit of a weed. It is false allium, also known as crow's poison, also known as a couple of other things. It's terrible. Nonetheless, it's like a grass that grows from a bulb, and they get everywhere, and it's basically uncontrollable. It's been my bane of my existence for years now, but what I've come to discover or accept is that these will be around for the springtime, at least for the next month or so. Then, as many bulbs do, they all die back. All the top growth goes away. So all these flowers, they go away after they've gone to seed, which again is a nightmare. So I don't try to dig them out of my flower beds because it's virtually impossible. What I may do is come through every once in a while and just pull these top flower stalks off, but the plant will push up more over time, and thus it's a never-ending battle. So I've come to accept to some degree that this is just going to be a bane of my existence. In the meantime, the flowers are kind of pretty to look at. But this space gaps in here, but hopefully a lot of those plants, such as the snapdragons and the black-eyed Susans, will wind up getting interplanted within these beds and hopefully fill out all of these beds a lot more this year and give me a lot more flowering interest this year and going forward in the future. Right here in front of me, I have Peppermint Stick Wild Tulip. I think it's also known as a species tulip, and there's, I'm sure, a scientific name for it, which I don't know at this point, but it is absolutely lovely. Now, these tulips aren't like your regular Dutch tulips. These are actually perennial from my understanding, and they will come back year after year and theoretically naturalize as well, much like the Dutch iris, which I really hope to because they add a lot of very early spring interests. One of the things that I'm trying this year, which I hope works out well, is I've been planting a lot of, sorry, just keep pulling these things, poppies. And out of this entire area that I seeded with poppy, it looks like only 2 have come up, which is fine, because if they do go to flower and then seed, they will spread obviously their seed throughout this space, which will be good because then, as you can see, they have very thick foliage and it hides a lot of that false allium throughout the space. Behind them I have lilies which are pushing up. I have more gladiolas pushing up, red hot pokers, more irises down there, and another variety of Dutch iris towards the end there. This here is Apollo Dutch iris. It looks, I think when the flowers open up, they're initially white, but some of these petals look like they're going a little bit blue, which is very pretty, and they have these lovely other yellow petals to them. They've been here for, oh, I don't know, I want to say 2 years at least, or maybe just last year. I can't necessarily remember because I'm getting old and senile. These things happen. But either way, I hope that they grow and naturalize and fill in the space much as those older Dutch irises that I had over in the rose garden. Let's check out some of the other stuff that's going on. Right here in front of me, I have White Breeze Daisy. It's one of many different varieties of daisies that I have here in the garden. I do like daisies. It's one of my, I would say, top 10 flowers or plants here in the garden. Over here I have an English boxwood, and that is putting on the most growth I've ever seen it put on since it's been in this spot. I think this is the 2nd or 3rd year it's been in the spot, which is good. Scattered throughout around, I have foxglove, which I believe are going to start flowering this year, and I will let them go to seed, of course, and then start depositing their seed all throughout this space so that year after year after year, hopefully I can have foxgloves coming up and giving us lovely flowers in early summer. I did a video on building this bench, and I did a short also on building the bench, which you may or may not have seen. If you haven't, you can go back, check it out. Just search for bench on the YouTube channel there, and I'm sure you'll find it. But right here in front of me, I have Queen Mum Agapanthus, and though there's nothing super exciting about it at the moment, because I just planted a couple of divisions that I took last year, and the ones that are in the ground, I did a whole story about this. But hopefully, I'm hoping, cross our fingers and toes, that by midsummer, there's just a beautiful clump of Queen Mum Agapanthus here with beautiful white flowering heads. And then the space right here, I don't know if it's in frame, but I have some Gara up front, and then there's these tall grassy looking things. That's all Dutch iris. None of them have gone to flower yet, although I do see one in the back corner that's getting ready to. What really amazes me right now and is making me quite excited is that these are peonies that I transplanted last year. There's a couple here behind me, there's a couple of here, and they're all starting to put on flower buds. And if you know anything about peonies, normally after you transplant and or divide a peony, they don't do anything for 3, maybe sometimes 4 years. And these peonies were scattered all throughout my garden. And what I made the decision last year to dig them up from where they were and bring them over to this corner of the flower garden, plant them all together. And it looks like many, if not all of them, are starting to put on flower buds. I can't explain why. I don't know why. These just got planted here, but they're putting on flower buds. It's just blowing my mind. So I'm looking forward to hopefully getting some late spring flowers out of these guys. I don't expect them to stick around for very long, but I'm pretty happy about that. Right in here, and I think you guys can see this, I have many different varieties of irises growing. Some unnamed varieties, 2 named varieties, and they've survived the winters and they've survived the deer. But you could probably see that there's a lot of gaps in between these irises. So what I'm thinking this year is I'm going to come back and I'm going to fill in a lot of the space in between the irises with salvia. So I think that would be really fun and exciting that these guys, hopefully, I don't know if they'll flower this year, but hopefully they do. And once they're done flowering, then there'll be these salvias that are just surrounding them, filling in the space, and of course, providing flowers for the summer. There's not much going on really in my front of the house beds here that is anything of note in particular. They are coming alive. They are starting to do their things. Everything is starting to grow, which is pretty exciting. So maybe what I'll do is a late spring, early summer garden tour, and hopefully by then a lot of the stuff is flowering and blooming. But right here in front of me are my Siberian irises, and these are variegated Japanese irises. They look spectacular right now with their variegated leaves. Hopefully we'll be getting flowers out of them in the next month or so. These are Siberian irises of something or other. I have labels around here someplace. I've done videos on having labels too, but they're looking fabulous and incredible right now. And just as with all things that are coming to life during springtime here in the garden, it's really exciting to see them just growing. And hopefully over the next, as I said, month or so, we just get an incredible display of flowers. Pollen is burning my eyes. There's so much pollen in the air. It's actually gotten a little bit better if you can believe that. There's been a lot of pollen from the pine trees that is just filling the air. My throat right now feels like sandpaper. Nonetheless, here we are at the entrance to the vegetable garden, and this right here is a chocolate vine, and it is incredible. Last fall or early winter, I took a hedge trimmer to it, really cut back the top growth, really took it back as hard as I could, and it just seems to have flourished a whole lot more. It's throwing out all sorts of new growth. I came through here the other day and it just snipped off some of these tendrils which are growing out from it, but it's been putting out these beautiful purple flowers that are now falling off because they're pretty much done. I think it has a short flowering period, but it is an incredible display right here in front of the vegetable garden. So I think we're going to wrap up our tour there. I didn't touch on every single plant growing or blooming or flowering. Again, if you want, follow me over on Instagram to see some more pictures of various plants that are flowering or blooming or doing something interesting, or even pictures of Sophie I post up there. Or again, you can go over to growinggreenfinger.com and scroll to the bottom of the homepage. You can see more photos there. If you guys have any questions or comments or suggestions or anything you want to say, please leave a comment below. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe, click that bell icon to be notified when I do post up a new video. And thank you to all the new subscribers for subscribing. Be sure to tell your friends, families, loved ones, grumpy old guy across the street. Feel free to share this video with all your friends, neighbors, social media, etc., etc., etc. You guys know the drill. With all that being said, I'm going to catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.